Okay, Chandan, Anand, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I'm able to share your screen.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is good. Hey, hello team.
Hey, Manan, how are you?
Good.
Okay, we'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start.
That's what I'm not sure about it.
Okay, I'm making you as host. Okay, still, I think everything is good. So you are the host. That's fine. You can admit anybody who are joining, Chandan.
Okay, Shan. No issues.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks, team. I think I see Manan, Bhaskar, bunch of people joining. So today we are going to talk about business continuity. Business continuity is one of the very important aspect of the governance risk and compliance platform. So why we need to look at the next generation of business continuity. So if you look at the current pandemic, which is COVID-19, I think it tells a big story for all of us. Previously, all the businesses used to tell they don't need to care for business continuity, disaster recovery, these kind of processes. But they cannot say that anymore because I think COVID-19 has taught a very big lesson for everybody because it's a kind of a big eye opener for everybody that they should have some processes in place through which they could have started all of this. The ultimate aim for business continuity is to help organizations think through what are the things they should be putting in place. So, for example, they should have had some basic set of processes. Chandan, can you mute all of others who are not speaking? Hello.
Sorry, Shan.
No, you need to put Bhaskar or others who are not speaking. You need to put everybody as mute actually, except me.
Okay, okay.
So cool. So if you look at the next generation business continuity, so that is the kind of a convergence of risk and continuity. So that's what is kind of we are going to talk today. So in the past, we have seen one kind of a full presentation where we kind of understood the need of business continuity and disaster recovery. Today's presentation is going to be further. We are going to talk about why do we need a business continuity plan, and then we will try to understand what are the different stages in the business continuity plan life cycle, and then what are the future of business continuity. So let's first understand why do we need a business continuity plan in first place. Okay. For life, for business, for any damn thing, we should have a plan. Always there is a plan, right? And whenever that plan is going wrong, you should have a backup plan also. So you guys, all of you must be knowing. Okay, we take a backup in USB, even for a small Word document file, what we may be preparing for our academic projects or some important official project works, right? So a lot of times we may try to put that in a Google Drive or some other place or some other cloud storage system so that we have another copy of that. Whatever important documents we want to kind of make in case the machine gets crashed, so that we have a copy somewhere virtually available or physically available. So always there is a plan. There is a plan B. So likewise, if you look at a business continuity plan, it's nothing but having a plan to deal with the unexpected. When that unexpected happens, that's when we are going to go to the USB or that virtual cloud, right? With respect to document. So likewise, in the real life, when a business is having some disruption, that's when this business continuity plan is going to kick in. So basically, business continuity plan is nothing but a process whereby businesses can respond to an incident and how they are recovering the critical business operations. These are the two things which is kind of put in place. This they are going to do it only when they are confronted with adverse events such as natural disasters, technological failures, human error, and other unplanned incidents like this pandemic, right? Even COVID-19 is a big thing. For example, there can be a storm which also can be disrupting a particular region. There can be a tsunami. There can be a political disruption.
For the finals, are we written by
Hello? So that's what it is. And then when we look at why do we need to have a plan for dealing with the unexpected, right? To simply describe, it's nothing but a coordinated strategy involving plans that assures businesses to kind of continually meet, so that the customers are not getting impacted because of the disruptions, right? Be it natural calamity, be it political disruption. So the business should not get disrupted. The people who are using the services of the business should always feel that they are continue providing things, right? If it is a saloon shop, if it is a mom and pop shop, if it is a grocery shop, of course, if they are supposed to shut down the shop, they are supposed to shut down the shop. The business will get disrupted for that matter. But think about a technology product, or think about a bank. They can continue provide support, they can continue operate, so that people can continue use the services of the bank through the online banking. People can continue use the technology product. So the people who are using the technology product, the technology teams, whoever supporting the technology product, should be able to continue maintain it up and running, and then through which the rest of the team should be able to kind of see to it how they are assuring the great quality of service level agreement to the customers, right? So it's nothing but a strategy involving multiple plans, and to kind of so that the customers are getting the continued service without any business disruption. So why have a plan? So basically the plan is nothing but a list of checklist of things that, okay, what we should do, 1 2 3, when there is a physical disruption and there is a technological disruption. Okay, if I am hosting right now in Amazon Web Services India, what will happen in case Amazon Web Services Mumbai data center is going down? So whether I have planned for something, okay, whether I have built the Kubernetes kind of a service through which I have distributed some nodes in other regions and zones, etc. stuff, so that the other zones will pick up the whole services. So we can figure out such a technological planning and the technological tools so that things are distributed in nature, so that the people will not seamlessly even realize that there is a disruption, right? So basically the plan is necessary so that it will reduce the reliance on key personnel. So it will reduce the dependency, right? And it will protect the assets, and also it will increase the safety of all personnel. For example, there is one person supporting an important technology system out of Chennai. There is a business disruption. There is another person who can also support it from Hyderabad. So there is no need for the Chennai person need to take so much pain to come to office if there is a big flood or pandemic in Chennai. So they can have the team which is supporting out of Hyderabad. They can pick up the things and then they can start operating things, right? So, and also coming back, so that the whole delays can be reduced through the recovery process. That's a very important aspect, and it provides a sense of security. So wherein, for example, organizations can feel that, okay, they have put a plan B, plan C, plan D, so that in case even if the plan A is going wrong, there is a plan B through which the businesses continue being supported. So, and also they are limiting potential exposure and reducing legal liability. For example, when kind of there is a pandemic or this natural disaster, the customers will still have their service level agreements. They will expect the business to continue provide the same level of service. So the organizations will have some legal liability, because in case if it is disrupting the client's business also, it is going to be a big damaging thing. So there is a legal liability. So how the organizations can reduce their legal liability? By having people from the other side of the world or other geographies can continue support, right? That's what the whole business continuity plan is about. It provides the organizational stability. So when you are even if you are a 30 people organization, you have 28 people supporting your engineering operations out of Chennai. you have two people sitting in Pune or Hyderabad who are the kind of remote operations team. If you have planned in such a way that they are the remote operations team, tomorrow there is something happening, those two people or the remote operations team can come chip in on behalf of the whole engineering team who may not be available when the whole 28 people, because of some issue in Chennai, right, all across Chennai. So those kind of things, so if you look at our real life, you would have certainly seen in your life the big disruptions, political disruptions, natural calamities, or some or other things. See, I think the one what we are seeing right now, COVID-19, is a big example. I think everybody and anybody across the world said that they don't need to care for this business continuity. Right now, even a small mom and pop shop, or even a kind of a saloon, everybody need to think through this aspect. They should have planned for this. So continuing on that, we have a plan. So basically, it helps organization maintain the continuity of operations and help them stay in business and maintain customer service, relocate critical operations quickly, and minimize financial losses. So let me give an example for 9/11. When 9/11 happened, so the World Trade Center went down. So there were a good number of officers operating out of the World Trade Center. So that all those guys suddenly kind of they ramped up their positions by having their remote the alternate sites come in quickly and start maintaining their technology systems. So huge number of trading desk, etc. stuff. So all those important banks, anybody and everybody who were running their core operations out of the World Trade Center, they were operating from even on the same day or the next day itself. So without having any disruption. So it helps organizations kind of relocate the critical operations quickly, and also it helps organizations minimize the financial losses, reduce disruptions to critical operations, and achieve an orderly recovery. In business continuity, there's an aspect called disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is a sister process of business continuity. So once after business continuity is nothing but a plan. Disaster recovery is nothing but the actual implementation of business continuity plan. So how well the organization is recouping from that whole disaster is what get documented in disaster recovery. So, and also when you look at the legal, contractual audits and then government regulations, the government and the regulators are expecting any business which is very serious in nature, which is serving thousands of or millions of clients, particularly in financial services or high important sectors and verticals. They expect them to have some such similar processes like business continuity plan, disaster recovery, through which there should be great support, right? And basically, as part of business continuity plan, these are the top things like almost eight line items which organization should have. So they should have a clear business BCP recovery team and roles, and they should have assigned people for that, and then they should have prioritized the critical functions and identified the recovery time objective. RTO is nothing but recovery time objective, which is a very important factor in business continuity. So, and when you look at things like critical roles, assignments, backup lead, and staff resources, they should have identified all of those people who can support, etc. stuff. And that's where this comes very handy. And then also they should have identified, by doing business impact assessment, they should have identified what are the critical IT equipments, systems, and what are the important data files. And they should have different prioritized all these different things based on high priority, medium priority, low priority. So usually they do this exercise called business impact assessment, through which they do this exercise. And basically they should be kind of determining loss of facility. Basically they should be putting a strategy like alternate workspace strategy in case if there is a loss of facility kind of a situation. And they should have put a strategy kind of for vendors and service providers. Assume I am Apple. Okay, I have outsourced to a Foxconn. Foxconn is my major phone manufacturer who builds iPhones, right? For me as a company like Apple. So assume there is a big pandemic in China, Foxconn is heavily dependent on China. I should be better knowing Foxconn's plan in case if China is getting shut, what Foxconn has planned so that they will continue supply the phones they were supposed to ship to me. So I should be knowing Foxconn's alternate manufacturing sites and the capacity what they have. And in case if there is a disaster in China, how Foxconn will ramp up the other sites, maybe Philippines, maybe Thailand, maybe India. So how they will ramp up those sites, alternate sites, and continue meet my service level agreement, right? So my market capitalization and brand image as Apple is very much dependent on my vendor Foxconn. So always I should know. See, there's a concept called vendor risk management in governance, risk and compliance. The reason why vendors are always evaluated and done this vendor risk management is that people even call that as third-party risk management. So why they do this vendor risk management is vendors are also part and parcel of any business ecosystem of any company enterprise. So when we have a vendor service providers and there are dependencies, we should have clearly put a strategy in case if a vendor is their kind of services are lost. So how well we are going to recoup. So service provider dependency strategy. Let me give another example. So in this COVID-19, I think the one industry which got hugely impacted is automobile. The automobile industry had a huge impact because anybody and everybody from Korea, from India, all the top manufacturing automobile manufacturing hubs, even US, everybody had their core raw materials and the important components getting built out of China. So there are other hubs like Japan and other countries, but still everybody was dependent on China because of the cost perspective, right? They were nobody was able to beat China's cost perspective in the manufacturing world. So there, even though the organizations had multiple vendors, they had vendor one, vendor two, vendor three for a same part. Okay, in manufacturing world they call something as bill of materials, right? So bill of materials. So you look at for manufacturing a car, there will be maybe 17,000 parts which will go as part of that manufacturing that car. So the 70,000 parts, even there's a small bolt nut which is coming from one particular vendor which is not coming sufficiently. So it will disrupt the whole supply chain. And all the manufacturing, the cars which were supposed to get shipped on that particular day, 1,000 cars per plant, where there are 2,000 or 3,000 employees working to build the 10,000 cars, right? So something like that. Even if there is a bolt nut missing from one vendor, the whole supply chain may get disrupted. That's the reason many of these automobile companies have a huge inventory. But when there are cases like pandemic, even the inventory will get depleted. That's when I think if you are planning for a vendor service provider, even it is very wise to plan, try to mitigate your risk by distribute your vendor in multiple geographies. I think COVID-19 taught the whole automobile world a big lesson. What will happen when they have all their vendors, even for single part, bill of material part, if they are dependent on one particular region or country, they are going to have a huge impact, which I think the whole automobile industry realized now. So now they are now trying to mitigate risk by having, okay, how we can have one another vendor supplying the same bolt nut from Thailand, another vendor from India, something like that. So now the whole automobile industry is trying to discover the whole scheme of things. It's a big opportunity for all the other countries who are laggard in the manufacturing space. Okay, let us look at what is the loss of people strategy, right? Let's go back to the same example of 9/11 World Trade Center, US, United States of America. Okay, the whole tower went down. There were twin towers. The whole tower went down. So what in case I'm going to do when I'm losing people? So whether I have a plan for the same activity, okay, I have an alternate site which is helping me support the operations. But whether that alternate site is going to really kind of have the same level of people who are also trained in the same fashion, I need to figure that out and kind of put a strategy towards it. So that's very important. And when we look at loss of technology, so how well I have planned for loss of technology. So I am maintaining some operations in one side. Okay, I'm having a data center in one side. I have all my important backups and data are stored there. So in case if the whole building is going down because of some natural disaster or man-made disaster, what I am going to do, whether I have a backup in an alternate site, till what time the backup is taken, whether it is a second level backup, or it's a kind of a minute level backup or a hourly backup. So maybe I will I will be able to go recover the data till the previous hour, something like that. So maybe the last 1 hour of transactions is what I am lost, something like that. With the latest technology world, whatever offerings are available with like a cloud, etc. So I think these days a lot of great capabilities are available where even we can plan for a microsecond level backups and technology recovery strategies. I am Ajita, I am muting you. Chandan, can you mute Ajita? Chandan, can you mute Ajita? So, okay, let us look at a
Yes,
business
sir.
continuity plan life cycle. The business continuity plan life cycle, there are kind of almost some 7 different stages, right? Let us look at it, including the initiation, there is 8 different stages. So, in the initiation, basically it is about what's the place we are in today. And then we define the project objectives, requirements, scope and cost, executive support, identify BCP teams, assignments, establish business continuity policies, etc. stuff. So the next comes the functional requirement discovery stage. Next is the strategy stage. Next is this planning stage. Then all this after all this project business continuity planning, project initiation, discovery, strategy, planning stages are done. Then it comes to the crisis communication. So what exactly we are going to do when there is a real crisis, right? Who will get communicated and what model they will get communicated. So and then there is another, the next important stage is exercise and testing. People usually call that as a tabletop exercise. Tabletop exercise means every month when you are doing this business continuity plan testing, so you create an incident like, okay, there's a tsunami happened. Okay, what we will do in case of a tsunami kind of a situation. So where okay, the whole Chennai team or this particular regions of the Chennai may not be able to come to office. What will the rest of the teams will do? So how we will be able to continue provide a seamless service to our clients? How will we be able to recover? How what in case if the whole internet of Chennai is going down? Something like that. A lot of these aspects we will test over the table itself and identify different situations and kind of cases, scenarios, and based on which we will artificially create. Okay, in case if that is the case, whether we have a team in Hyderabad, whether they have access to all these technology systems, okay, whether they have access to the VPN. So all these things need to be tested on a monthly fashion. So we cannot do the real-time testing when the disaster happens, right? So it need to be tested on a monthly fashion. The tabletop exercise need to be done on a monthly fashion or a quarterly fashion at least, so that organizations are always prepared for this pandemic or this kind of disaster situation, right? And then finally, last but not least, which is maintaining and updating. So the business continuity plan need to be maintained and updated. By doing this exercise and testing every month or quarter, we will continue maintain. For example, in one of the month, we are just saying that, okay, we will test for pandemic. Okay, in the previous months, we have tested for natural disaster, political disruption, etc. stuff. We have never tested for pandemic. Okay, when we are creating a scenario like pandemic and doing a tabletop exercise, we will even think very differently. So whatever issue we have here in Chennai, we may have the same issue in the Hyderabad, the alternate site also. So how are we going to manage them? So it needs a different thinking pattern, and we will update our whole business continuity plan in a very different fashion, and update and maintain it now. So and then finally, once after all the stages are done, the last stage is training and awareness. So that means that the whole business continuity plan is put in place. So how all the people who are the stakeholders of the business continuity plan are made aware of how what are their roles and responsibilities. when the real disaster occurs or disaster happens. So that's what it is. So let's look at the future, how business continuity plan has changed, the landscape of business continuity has changed. So there are a bunch of elements of actionable business continuity plan. So basically, there is a kind of a risk evaluation, results and controls, and business continuity defined strategies. And organizations are also trying to put together the emergency response and operational procedures. These are the different artifacts and steps as part of this whole thing. Business continuity plans where we are planning for the site and departments, and also IT disaster recovery plans. And then as I said before, the tabletop exercise, which is nothing but the business continuity plan testing and exercises, and then awareness and training programs. And then how are we communicating to the rest of the world? Public relations and crisis communication procedure. Okay, I got hacked. Okay, whether how I am going to recover from that particular thing, even certainly is nothing but a business continuity plan. So it's not only business continuity plan, it's an incident management plus business continuity plan. For example, how I am communicating to the world. Am I communicating through Twitter? Am I communicating through my blog? Okay, my site got hacked, or my core product got hacked. So how am I communicating to the world? And then how am I making sure that everybody is kind of staying on top of things, so that we are kind of attacking and communicating in a very transparent fashion to the world, so that the world is keeping themselves abreast of what's happening. And finally, coordination with public authorities. At times, when we are a product company, or when we are also kind of having some relationship with public authorities, or our product has some public impact also, we need to figure out how we are communicating with public authorities. At times, even to recover our business operations, we need to work in tandem with the public authorities. For example, there is a pandemic, we need to work in tandem with the police department to so that the people can be transported, at least the core important people can be transported to the office, so that that technology systems can be maintained in a tenable fashion, it can be supported. So this is an ongoing process. There is an ongoing approach. Basically, this is a process where it's not just a project where there is this annual risk assessment and this business impact assessment and plan reviews are conducted on a very regular fashion. So also there should be budget allocated for this whole exercise. So for example, there is some additional technology tools which need to be bought, additional things, allowances which need to be given to people so that they have additional internet connectivity to their home, etc. stuff. So all those things need to be planned, accounted, and there should be ongoing BCP coordination. So basically, yeah.
Pre-meeting will end in 10 minutes. That's what.
Yeah, sure. So I think we are almost on the kind of on the closure side of the session. So if you look at the summary, so organizations can use this as a incorporate this as a program as part of their business as usual, and the extension of the normal operations rather than reactive project. So for example, what does that mean? Instead of organization putting a whole plan after the whole this chaos happen, they can plan in advance, and they can plan. So it's a very important scheme of things. So we have two products as part of our core Fresh GRC platform called Business Continuity, Business Resiliency and Disaster Recovery. We would be happy to help any organizations who are needing those. We can set up a pilot process through which we can help you try the platform. And as a governance risk and compliance platform company, we would be very happy to help even a small startup or a mid-markets company to set up their process systems. And in case if there are any questions, I'll take that now, folks. Please go ahead.
Yeah,
Good evening,
I have a
Shan.
doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Good evening,
go ahead.
Shan. This is Ashish.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashish.
For a CISO, how is it important to understand the business aspect? Maybe he or she can have erudition on technology, but what should be the CISO consider during the planning phase when it comes to maintaining the business as well as deploying the BCP plan to effect?
Super. The CISO should consider only, I think there are a few metrics like RTO, RTE. RTO is nothing but recovery time objective. RTE, I forgot the name. So RTE is another thing where in real time. So these are the two metrics that they should be looking at. For example, let's look at it. So it's called a recovery time objective, recovery point objective. These are the two metrics the CISO should be bothered. So how quickly they can recover, or what is that service level agreement they have, based on which they should be recovering the whole thing. That's a very clear metrics. It's a kind of how well they seamlessly recover the whole systems and kind of recover the whole thing is what it is about.
Thanks, Sean.
Yes, Shan, this is Chandran. I have a doubt.
Go
Like,
ahead.
we
Go ahead.
talk about business continuity plan. Like, if we consider the IT industry, like we have some critical applications related to banking projects also.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, we need a secure system to deal with it. Like when we are attending this Zoom meeting or however, employees are working through their home at this pandemic situation. So these things are very confidential banking application.
Yeah.
So we as an industry in a whole, how much we are prepared at this point of time, and what infrastructure changes that we require in order to mitigate with such situations. So what are your views over that?
Good question. Very good question. So the thing is, I think industry is not ready yet. Okay. Let me give an example. Tata Consultancy Services is supporting Bank of America. Let us create a artificial situation here to give you that explain the example, right? For example, there are 1,000 people from TCS who are supporting Bank of America out of Chennai and Pune. So there are some 500 people in Chennai providing support for some business technology systems, enterprise applications. There are 500 people out of Pune who are doing some other technology systems support of Bank of America. So these are 1,000 people from TCS. There may be other vendors for Bank of America who may be supporting the same application also as a backup, right? So Bank of America might have planned some other BCP from their standpoints, but so how TCS is going to provide support in case of situations like pandemic? Right now, see, for very core important projects, confidential projects like banking industry projects, right? So ideally speaking, even when you are looking for such confidential projects, you cannot take your mobile phone inside. There is an additional set of physical security controls, additional set of information security controls are put in place so that people provide a different quality of service when they are working for those kind of clients. What will happen? What is happening right now? Let us look at the pandemic situation, COVID-19, right? So how this 500 people out of the Bank of America supporting out of Chennai, and Bank of America the TCS folks, vendor folks who are supporting out of Pune are still accessing the same applications, and how well they are making sure that the Bank of America's data are very confidential, kept in safe regard. So since they are accessing from home, so how well it is made sure that things are taken care still is a kind of a big thing which industry is trying to discover. I think industry is trying to use some tools like the virtual private network, where the people from employees are given laptop. From laptop they need to connect to things like office systems, and from office system they can kind of connect to organization through which they can kind of further support. And there's a complete recording of whole thing, whatever happened while the employees are supporting those very important core confidential systems, right? That's what is happening, Ashish.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. I think thanks a lot. I think it was a good session. Looking forward to meet you guys with one another topic. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Shan.